how a world-class scientist found God. Dean Kenyan holds a Bachelor of Science in Physics from the University of Chicago and a PhD in Biophysics from Stanford. In addition, he was a National Science Foundation postdoctoral fellow in chemical biodynamics at UC Berkeley and was one of the world's leading evolutionary biologists and origin of life researchers. You know, the people who try to grow life out of non-life. So what happened? Well, after years of world-class origin of life research, Kenyan concluded that intelligent design is absolutely necessary for the origin of life as found on our planet. And Kenyon also determined that the intelligent designer is the God of the Bible. Yes, the eminent scientist Dean Kenyan became a Bible-believing Christian. Science led him to God.
Dean Kenyan is Professor Emeritus of Biology at San Francisco State University. He became a creationist in his mid-30s and would have testified in 2 creationism in education court cases had he not fled the first the day before being called, apparently after being warned by a fellow absentee witness about the potential damage to his scientific reputation. In the second, he was asked only to submit an affidavit. Kenyon also co-authored the creationist book Of Pandas and People, which was so roundly debunked and indeed eviscerated at the Dover trial. He became a creationist in 1976 because he couldn't easily falsify a creationism book about geology, which is not his own subject. I'm not a geologist, and I don't agree with everything in that book, but what stood out was that here was a scientific statement giving a very different view of Earth history. Though the book doesn't deal with the subject of the origin of life per se, it has the effect of suggesting that it is possible to have a rational alternative explanation of the past. Kenyon has since become so embroiled in creationism that he's now a fellow of the Discovery Institute, a creationist organization which has members swear never to accept any scientific discovery as contradictory to the Bible. The video clip currently doing the rounds on social media claims that science led Kenyon to God, but I disagree. Arrogance led Kenyon to God. To explain what I mean, I'll need to give you a short, true analogy. In the late 17th century in Salem, Massachusetts, the local priest had a problem. Several girls were behaving strangely, and an ever-increasing throng of locals was being denounced as witches. Even the local priest, a Reverend Samuel Parris, himself a stickler for enforcing godly behaviour with humiliating public punishments for even the tiniest infractions, understood that he was not qualified to pronounce on this matter. He needed men of science to help determine just what was going on. The local doctor, William Griggs, was unable to find any maladies, and so Parris, in an uncharacteristic moment of humility, wrote to the most respected and senior clergy he had access to, and they were unequivocal. If medicine can't answer it, then it must be satanic. But it was only 1693. It was almost 300 years later that the penny dropped when historians and modern scientists identified ergotism as the likely cause. Ergot is a type of hallucinogenic mold that most likely affected Salem's communal grain stores, causing mass hysteria, without any significant physical signs for contemporary doctors to identify. The arrogance of 17th century men in believing that if they didn't understand it, it could not be understood, ever, led to the deaths of around 200 innocent people. The arrogance of Dean Kenyan in assuming that because he can't crack abiogenesis, nobody can, ever, has led him to spread irrational nonsense and even teach it to young people who really deserve better. Science didn't lead Kenyon to God. His own arrogance is more than enough to accomplish that.